Chapter 2 of The Darker Side of a Hero. Begin data entry. Underscore, underscore, underscore. It felt as though I was in a coma, like it was all just a bad dream. I knew better, yet I couldn't stop myself from hopping it was. Could you, having everything and everyone you know taken from you as you are forced forced into cruel darkness that can only be imagined in the deepest nightmares or in the acid tripped minds of video game developers. The blast doors remained sealed. Still I lay there hoping to awaken from this eternal damnation before something inside me clicked and I began to hope, ever so faintly, that somehow, some way, they survived. I demanded a status report from Electra as I began to pore over the stabilizers, making sure that my underground shop remained untouched by the radiation. Everything looked good and stable as I donned a rad suit and entered the airlock. Of course, Electra was concerned with the probability of my survival, but I couldn't have cared less. I slid the chamber shut and manually opened the door to an elevator shaft leading to the surface. My wrist comm came to life as Electra began feeding me information regarding my surroundings, and I activated the lift. Beginning the anxious kit that I am, I felt like it was going slower than a snail as the lift made its way up. What didn't help the feeling was the sudden jolt as the lift came to a stop. Sighing, I pressed a few buttons on my wrist pad, and my personal maintenance nanobot came to life and freed itself from my pack. It's not a nanobot then. Crawling up my pant like it's not a nanobot. I lowered my head where it could climb on and raised it to my eye level. Electra, I said, scan the circuitry and see what you can find wrong with the lift. Faster than lightning, my leapt from my hand. I guess PMN stands for personal micro nanobot or some shit. Anyways, my leapt from my hand to the wall of the lift so that the wall of the lift and made its way into one of the circuit panels. After a good 5 minutes, I was about to radio Electra and see what the problem is when there was a massive spark causing the lift to begin ascending again. Being overjoyed, I opened the compartment to retrieve my bug, only to find a pile of nanobits, solder, and burnt wire. I will need to recalibrate the systems I had thought as Electra fed me the data on both the lift and my late bot. I had assumed that it would go smoothly from there. However, once I had reached the top, once the lift had breached the debris, my fears were realized, my anxiousness left, and I was suddenly faced with the reality that this was something more than I thought I could handle. Still, I tucked the emotion away and began to work on trying to find anyone that might have survived. Lucky for me, Electra activated the emergency procedures for my hangar, so everything was underground and tucked away from the blast safely in a lead. That's not how you spell lead. In a lead, as in I led someone somewhere, lined storage room. That being said, I was able to utilize the walker mode on my X-Tornado, not to mention the medical equipment I had added should I find anyone in need of it. Yet, even with all this equipment, I hadn't expected it to be this bad. It was a nuclear blast, you fucking... Alright, nothing was recognizable. Even with my scanners and radar and anything else I could have used, it would take me months, even years, to shift through all the rubble. What a fucking... I decided against searching the burnt out buildings. I knew that if anyone was caught in the initial blast, they were already dead. But something kept telling me to search for my friends. That's when I remembered the beacons in their comm watches I had designed specifically to always be activated. It would aid me in the search for the team, but boy was I ever to say that my beacons did not function. They did. Okay. In fact, they were all in the vicinity of where I was located. I was happy and somewhat excited as I shifted into hoverjet mode and made my way to their location. However, I didn't expect to find what I did. It was a small area untouched by the nuclear blast. It was an area that was unburnt and still as beautiful as the day I first laid eyes on it. Angel Island. I know what you're thinking, and yes, Angel Island was a target, and yes, there were missiles, 23 to be exact, and they were supposed to destroy the floating island. I suppose the eyes didn't count on the guardian of the island utilizing the Master Emerald's power as a shield to defend against the attack. I chuckled as I arrived. However, my smile was short-lived. As soon as I landed, my eyes caught a glimpse of the destructive power of the greatest mistake ever. Hundreds upon thousands of people, most of which were on cots, some missing arms or legs, others sick with advanced radiation poisoning. My heart sunk. Before I could say anything, I heard the familiar sound of chaos control. Yes! I turned to face and seen Shadow touch down with another truckload of wounded, soon followed by the Chaotix and a chopper carrying another group. They dropped them off and then left for more. I wanted to help, but first things first. I needed to find Knuckles and figure out where Sonic and Cosmo were. Don't you? Okay. When I was confronted When I had confronted Knuckles with my inquiry, he slightly grimaced, as if he was faced with an important decision. Not using my head, I grabbed Knuckles by his collar and demanded to know where Sonic and Cosmo were. Needless to say, I was met with a strong right hook. Knuckles were wanting to pummel me. I could tell lucky for me, I was able to talk him out of it by reminding him I was just a kid and can't control my feelings. He's not the smartest of the bunch. Nevertheless, he leads me to the tent close to the Master Emeralds, and there in that tent was it. The very last bit of hope I had left shattered. There, neatly laid out on cots covered with sheets, were the unmistakable bodies of my two closest friends, Cosmo Cedrian, my love, and Sonic, my brother and friend. I blacked out. All right, Chapter 3 of The Darker Side of a Hero. Let's keep going, guys. Oh, boy. Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying the story so far. Just a quick heads up, I'm implementing buildings, single characters, and such from the Fallout series to better equip this fic. Yes, enjoy! Oh, I will. Alright, begin data entry. I hurt, mental, spiritually, emotionally, and most of all, physically. I had just had my whole world torn away and shredded and have lived to tell about it. That was then that I decided no more. The ever-watching eyes, as they were called, have caused enough trouble, and the world pay for their stupidity. I was through crying over everything. My love was lost, as was my brother. So I did what anyone who was angry and spiteful would do. I vowed revenge and went home. I sat in my workshop on an overstuffed sofa for 3 days thinking. I would get calls over the comm and not answer, have people come looking for me, only to have Electra take the message and send them on their way. Heck, I even went without food or water up till Electra threatened me with inducing sleep and tube feeding me. Oh, that's for sure this guy's fetish. But that's what it took, and when the light bulb finally came on, it shone brighter than clearer than what I must do. Okay. I must end this at the source. I knew I couldn't do it alone, so I went to the one who was most likely to help, Dr. Ivo Robotnik. Oh, sweet Jesus. He was surprised that I was still alive, let alone making an offer to him. What he didn't know was that Sonic was dead, and so was my love. Once he inquired how I survived and why I'm here instead of Sonic, I told him the truth. He was noticeably shocked, if not slightly discouraged. I would guess that he and Sonic's relationship was like a normality to him. It was his only absolute. His quest for dominance was only threatened by one person in his mind, because Shadow totally couldn't snap his neck with a mere twitch of his wrist. The good doctor was never really all there in the head, which was sad because at the time we could have used his genius to help save the world. Sadly enough, as always, he tried something just as I thought he would. However, this time Sonic was not here and it was just me. He attempted to capture me after everything I have been through and everything I had just told him. He actually thought to try and capture me. And if I wasn't already pissed off enough, I easily. Okay. And if I wasn't already pissed off enough, I easily dodged his robotic arms. What? I chuckled as I calmly activated a pulse drive and shut down his facility's defenses. I then pulled a pistol from behind my back and shot the remote out of his hand. Robotnik gripped his now bleeding hand as I calmly walked up to him. He looked at me with shock and awe and said, Sonic would never do that. You wouldn't want to shame your precious memory of him now, would you, Tails? He just did not understand. I looked at him and leveled the gun at his forehead as memories of my lost friends raced through my mind. What can you say to someone who doesn't understand what you're going through? I looked at him and calmly said, My name is Tails! Miles! What? Okay. I did not want Sonic could ever do. Okay. I put a bullet in his skull and the doctor fell limp on the ground in a slowly spreading pool of blood as I lowered my gun. Yes, I killed him. Miles Cameron Prower, killed Dr. Robotnik, though it didn't feel as I thought it would. I felt no remorse or regret or shame. He was my enemy, and it was either him or me. It happened, and it was over. Next thing I did was take over his lab and begin to recalibrate his Destructo bots to send them out and give relief and aid Knuckles. As for his Destroyer class bots, his army of super bots, they belong to me as my personal group of mercenaries. Holy shit! And I used them in ways that Robotnik had never dreamed of. I recalibrated their systems, installed a self-healing system, along with other types of armor and tech weaponry. Heck, I even made them impervious to EMPs of all kinds. Probably means EMPs, but he did not capitalize them, so. But most of all, I got rid of that nasty egg shape. They were the perfect soldiers. With that done, I began work on my next plan. I'm sure many of you know about the Blue Typhoon. Well, I made a new design that turned it into a destroyer-class battleship. And the funny thing is, no one knew anything about my plans. There was no radar constantly watching me or spies invading my privacy trying to gain access to my shop. It was just me and the freedom to restore and rebuild. I built an army, built a fully functional battlecraft, and my bots began cleanup of the radiation and began the rebuilding of Station Square to honor the fallen heroes. And no one questioned my motives, no one stood against me, and no one knew my true intentions. I was out for revenge, and the way it looked then said I would have everything exactly how I wanted it. But of course, as you know, nothing is as it seems. I began to sending out scouting droids. I received reports that the remaining gun forces had begun to muster around the old abandoned faculty known as Helios 1. At first glance, I had begun to think it was another solar energy facility, but I wasn't sure. And the last time I dismissed something like that, the world ended. So I decided to do something so dangerous and so stupid that it just might work. I infiltrated their ranks, posed as a scientist, and began to dig through their files on the plant. Luck looked my way because it seemed they got a complete idiot as the science team leader. Holy shit! This is from New Vegas! Aw, this owns! It was easy to get by him. I just asked where the toilet was, and he said, look to around. No security or anything whatsoever. Anyways, I walked around inside and wormed my way past the guards by pretending to be on errands for Mr. Fantastic. Heh, heh, heh. It was cake, pure and simple. After cleaning the first few floors with no successful bathroom breaks, I lucked out and found my way into the array control area that was unable to be accessed due to some group that had occupied this place before Gunn did. They resurrected some failsafe protocol and activated it when they were overthrown. It was very simple to deactivate. I am surprised they didn't see it themselves. Of course, they did have an idiot for a leader. Whoa. All I had was to hack the main system via one of the turret terminals. Then I reconfigured the guidance system to pick up human organisms so that I can walk past turrets without fear of being shot. Simple telemetries. That, and it's one of the pros of being a fox. Nice. Once inside, you would not believe what I found. Everything that has to do with solar warfare. Yep, you guessed it. This was not just a solar power plant. Helios was a weapon of mass destruction, a laser of sorts which utilizes the solar power from the sun via solar reflectors. Once the rays are harnessed, then a devastating blast can be shot anywhere within the satellite can target. Of course, I could utilize this in my soon coming war with the secret society that killed my friends. I was overjoyed at the idea that this survived the blast as I was eager to test it out, and I had the perfect target. Recalibrating the focus on the beam, I was able to fire with pinpoint accuracy on any target I wanted, even one as small as a baseball. All that I needed to do now was set an auto cycle up, and presto, now the device is fully automated and the set target just happened to be the gun agent's own. It was just a flick of a switch away. Oddly enough, it was at that moment that my conscience caught up to me. These men were hired to follow orders, yet those orders killed innocents. It was a 50-50 saint-sinner view, so I gave a warning. Those willing to abandon their posts and flee were allowed to do so since they were still able to think on their own. Those who stayed behind were to be judged and executed. As I had thought, only a handful stayed behind. As propaganda began playing about guns' involvement in the end of the world, I knew I had struck a nerve. At the same time, I didn't care, because they had no idea who was responsible for it. It was simplistic beauty. Oh my God. Would that you could have been there. I had walked out onto the observation deck to watch my new machine work. Whoa, whoops. There were gun soldiers yelling at me and readying their rifles as I simply laughed and waved. I was still in a gun science team uniform, and this had caused them to become somewhat confused. You're a fucking fox. You're one of the heroes of the world. Jesus Christ. Sorry. And it was at that moment I flipped the switch. I would say that it took maybe 15 seconds before blinding light caused me to avert my eyes, but once it had died down, I turned back to look and see that they were still alive. My expression dropped. How could I have failed? I asked myself this question while looking at the soldiers who were about as if trying to figure out themselves what had happened. And then my hopeful wish flourished. At that very moment, a concentrated amber ray came down out of the clear blue sky and turned one of the men to dust. Soon it was followed by another and another, and soon every single member of the gun unit was nothing more than a simple pile of ash. Things were going very well indeed. End data entry. Wow, some powerful stuff about about what it means to be a man and what sinner saint choices are. Well, so fucking good.